My rebellious 16-year-old daughter screamed, "I wish you were dead. Mom's new boyfriend is my real dad." I said calmly, "Noted, sweetheart." So I start acting like dead. 3 days later, she is begging me to return back to normal. I, 44 male, have been divorced from my ex-wife Melissa for 8 years. We have a daughter, Amanda, 16, who I've raised mostly on my own since the divorce. Melissa moved across the country for her dream job and sees Amanda maybe twice a year. Last week, everything exploded. Amanda has been dating this guy Jason, 17, who I don't approve of. Kid's got a record for shoplifting, skips school constantly, drives like a maniac, and treats my daughter like crap. I told her she couldn't go to some house party with him last Friday. Standard parent stuff, right? She went nuclear. Started screaming about how I'm ruining her life, how I don't understand her, the usual teenage dramatics. Then she dropped the bomb. "I wish you were dead. At least Mom's new boyfriend Timothy understands me. He's more of a dad to me than you'll ever be. I can't wait until I'm 18 and can live with them." I just looked at her. Didn't yell, didn't argue, just said, "Noted, sweetheart." She stormed off to her room, probably expecting me to chase after her like I usually do. But something in me just snapped. Not in an angry way, more like a switch flipped. If she wants me dead, I'll give her exactly what she asked for. Since Saturday morning, I've been acting like I don't exist in her life. Dead people don't make breakfast, so she's been having to figure that out herself. Dead people don't give rides, so she's been taking the bus. Dead people don't pay for things, so when she asked for money for lunch, I just stared through her like she wasn't there. Dead people definitely don't pay for unlimited data plans, Spotify Premium, or Netflix accounts. She thought it was a joke at first, kept trying to get reactions. "Dad, this is stupid. Dad, come on. Dad!" Nothing. I just go about my day like she's not there. I make dinner for one. I watch TV alone. When she talks, I don't even glance her way. My phone's been blowing up from Melissa since this morning. Apparently Amanda called her crying using the landline. But hey, dead people don't answer phones either. Is this petty? Maybe. But I'm tired of being the only parent who gives a damn while being told I'm not good enough. Update 1 to answer some questions. Yes, I'm still feeding her. There's food in the fridge, she just has to make it herself. No, I'm not neglecting her. I'm just not engaging. So here's what happened today. Amanda tried to break my resolve by bringing Jason over. I guess she thought I'd have to acknowledge him as a guest. Nope. I walked right past both of them in the living room, made myself a sandwich in the kitchen, and went to my home office. I could hear her explaining to Jason that I was being psycho and ignoring her for no reason. The kid actually had the nerve to knock on my office door and tell me I was being immature. I didn't even look up from my laptop. But here's where it gets interesting. Melissa called my sister Stephanie, and Stephanie came over to talk sense into me. Now, Stephanie knows the whole story. She's been my rock through everything, with Melissa leaving and basically abandoning Amanda while playing fun mom twice a year. Stephanie walks in, sees Amanda on the couch looking miserable, and says, "Oh honey, why the long face? I thought you'd be happy now that your dad's dead to you." Amanda starts crying. "Aunt Stephanie, make him stop." Stephanie just shrugs. "Make who stop? I don't see anyone doing anything to you." Amanda runs to her room. Stephanie high-fives me and says she's proud of me for finally standing up for myself. We had coffee. Well, I had coffee, she had wine, and she filled me in on the texts Melissa's been sending her. Apparently, Melissa's boyfriend Timothy, who's only met Amanda 3 times, told Melissa that I'm emotionally abusing Amanda and they're considering options. Stephanie told Melissa maybe she should try being a parent for once instead of letting her boyfriend play daddy to a kid he doesn't know. The best part, Amanda's phone got shut off today for non-payment. See, I've been paying for her phone, but the account is in my name. Dead people can't authorize payments, so when the autopay failed, I canceled it. The service got suspended. She had to use the house phone to call her friend Rebecca. I heard her complaining about how insane I'm being and how she didn't mean it like that when she said she wished I was dead. Too late now, sweetheart. Update 2. The entitlement is real, y'all. This morning, Amanda missed the bus because she's used to me waking her up. She came downstairs at 8:45, school starts at 8:05, and found me drinking coffee and reading news on my tablet. Dad, why didn't you wake me up? I'm late. Nothing, not even a glance. She started getting frantic. This isn't funny anymore. I have a chemistry test. Still nothing. She actually stood in front of me, waving her hands in my face. I just moved my tablet to the side and kept reading. She stormed off, and I heard her calling Melissa from the house phone. 20 minutes later, she comes back down in tears. Mom says if you don't drive me to school right now, she's calling her lawyer. I almost laughed. Melissa hasn't paid child support in 2 years. But sure, call your lawyer. Amanda ended up having to walk to school. It's only a mile and a half, perfectly safe neighborhood. I watched from the window as she stomped down the driveway with her backpack, probably cursing my existence. Around noon, I get a call from the school. I don't answer, but they leave a voicemail. Amanda tried to buy lunch, but her account was empty. I usually load it up every Monday. The cafeteria lady let her charge it this once, but she needs to add funds. Then the real chaos started. Melissa actually flew in. She showed up at my door at 3 p.m. with Timothy. This dude is exactly what you'd expect, trying to look younger than his 38 years with a backwards cap and designer jeans. Melissa's lost weight, done something to her face, and is wearing clothes meant for someone Amanda's age. Brian, open this door right now. We need to talk about what you're doing to my daughter. I'm sitting in the living room, clearly visible through the window, just reading a book. Timothy starts pounding on the door. Hey man, be an adult and talk to us. I turn the page. They stayed out there for 45 minutes. Melissa went from demanding to pleading to threatening. Timothy went from tough guy to trying to peer through windows to actually suggesting they call the police. Amanda got home from school, had to walk again, and found them on the porch. The look on her face was priceless, like she didn't expect her mom to actually show up. Mom, what are you doing here? Baby, I'm here to fix this. Your dad has lost his mind. We're gonna stay at a hotel and figure out our options. Amanda looks at me through the window. I'm still reading, acting like there's nobody outside. Dad, please. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean it. Nothing. Melissa grabs Amanda's arm. Come on, sweetie. Pack a bag. You're coming with us until your father stops this ridiculous behavior. But here's the thing, Amanda didn't tell Mommy Dearest. She's on academic probation for missing too many classes, sneaking out with Jason. If she misses more school without a valid excuse, she gets expelled. Amanda tries to explain this to Melissa, who waves it off. We'll call the school. Timothy knows people on the school board. Timothy, who's met Amanda 3 times, nods like he's got pull in a school district he's never lived in. They left with Amanda, who looked back at the house like she was hoping I'd stop them. I didn't. Stephanie came over an hour later with Chinese food and wine. They won't last 2 days in a hotel room together, she predicted. Melissa can barely handle Amanda for a weekend, let alone full-time. We'll see. Update 3. Stephanie was wrong. They didn't last 2 days. They lasted exactly 18 hours. Amanda showed up at 7:30 this morning with Melissa and Timothy. I was making breakfast, for one, obviously, when I heard the car doors slam. They didn't knock this time. Melissa used the emergency key, guessed she still had it, and they all walked in like they owned the place. Brian, this ends now, Melissa announced. Amanda has something to say to you. Amanda looked exhausted. Her eyes were puffy, hair messy. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. Please, can we just go back to normal? I put my single plate of eggs and bacon on the table and started eating. Timothy stepped forward. Listen here, buddy. That's when Amanda snapped, but not at me. Shut up, Timothy. You don't even know me. Stop acting like you're my dad. The room went silent except for my fork against the plate. Melissa's face went red. Amanda, apologize to Timothy right now. He drove all the way here. I don't care, Amanda screamed. You dragged me to that gross hotel where you guys fought all night. You don't even know what classes I'm taking. You didn't know I had a chemistry test. You didn't know about my probation. You don't know anything. She turned to me, tears streaming. Dad knows. Dad knows I hate pickles on my burgers. Dad knows I need exactly 2 creams in my coffee. Dad knows I get panic attacks during thunderstorms. Dad knows my favorite show is The Office, even though I tell everyone it's Euphoria. Dad knows me. But I told him I wished he was dead. I told him Timothy was my real dad. Her voice broke. and now he won't even look at me. Melissa tried to intervene. Baby, we can work this out. No, Amanda cut her off. You left. You left when I was 8. You call maybe once a month. You send money for my birthday, when you remember. Last year you sent it 2 weeks late. She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. Turns out she'd written me a letter at the hotel. Her handwriting was shaky. Dad, I know you probably won't read this because dead people can't read. But I need you to know I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was mad about Jason and the party, and I said the worst thing I could think of. But I didn't mean it. You're not perfect. You're strict and you worry too much, and you still cut the crusts off my sandwiches, even though I tell you I'm not 5 anymore. But you're here. You've always been here. When I got my first period and was too embarrassed to buy pads, you just showed up with like 10 different brands and chocolate. When I failed my driving test, you said it was okay, and we went for ice cream. When Jason was being a jerk to me last month, you didn't say I told you so. You just let me cry and made me mac and cheese at 11 p.m. I'm sorry I said Timothy was my real dad. He asked me what grade I was in, my grade. He bought me a gift card to Justice. Justice. I'm 16. Please don't be dead anymore, please. She set the letter on the table next to my plate. Melissa was sputtering. Amanda, I've been building a life for us. For us? Amanda laughed bitterly. You've been building a life for you, with Timothy, in your perfect condo where kids aren't allowed to visit more than 2 weeks at a time. Yeah, Dad told me about your HOA rules. Timothy looked uncomfortable. Melissa, maybe you should leave, Amanda said. Both of you. This is my house, with my dad, and you're not welcome here anymore. The silence was deafening. Melissa grabbed her purse. Fine, when you're ready to apologize and be reasonable, you know where to find me. They left. Amanda stood there, shaking. I finished my breakfast, washed my dish, put it away. Then I looked at my daughter, really looked at her for the first time in 5 days. There's cereal in the pantry. Don't forget you have school. It wasn't much, but the relief on her face was everything. She hugged me. I didn't hug back yet, but I didn't push her away either. I know I have a lot to prove, she whispered. I know, but I'll do whatever it takes. We'll see. Final update. It's been a weekend of revelations. Saturday morning, Amanda was up at 7 a.m. making breakfast. Burned eggs and soggy toast, but she tried. She's been doing her own laundry, cleaning without being asked, and hasn't mentioned Jason once. But the real drama came from an unexpected source. Melissa called Stephanie in a rage on Saturday night. Apparently, Timothy broke up with her. He said the whole incident opened his eyes to the fact that she'd essentially abandoned her kid and he didn't sign up for baby mama drama. The dude who wanted to play daddy for a teenager he'd met 3 times couldn't handle one night of actual parenting. Melissa, in her infinite wisdom, decided this was somehow my fault. She called Stephanie screaming about how I'd ruined her relationship and turned Amanda against her. Stephanie, being Stephanie, put her on speaker so Amanda and I could hear the whole thing. He was marriage material, Stephanie. Do you know how hard it is to find a good man at my age? And Brian ruined it with his little stunt. Brian didn't do anything. He gave Amanda exactly what she asked for. This is parental alienation. Is it? Because I'm pretty sure parental alienation requires, actual parenting first. The call ended with Melissa threatening legal action and Stephanie laughing so hard she spilled wine on my couch. Sunday was quiet. Amanda and I didn't talk much, but we existed in the same space. She did homework at the kitchen table while I paid bills. She made us both coffee, got my 2 creams right. We watched The Office together after dinner, her choice, not mine. Then this morning happened. I'm working from home when I hear a car pull up. It's Jason. In his beat-up Honda with the loud exhaust. Amanda comes downstairs, sees him through the window, and her face goes pale. I didn't invite him, she says quickly. I swear, Dad. I didn't. I watch as she goes outside. I can't hear the conversation, but I can see it. He's gesturing wildly, pointing at the house, at her, getting in her space. She's backing away, shaking her head. Then he grabs her arm. I'm outside before I even realize I'm moving. Get your hand off my daughter. They both freeze. Amanda starts crying, relief, I think. Jason puffs up. Oh, now you want to talk? Amanda's been telling everyone how you've been ignoring her like a psycho. And yet here you are at my house, grabbing my daughter after she told you to let go. That's assault, son. I ain't your son. No, you're not. You're a 17-year-old with a truancy problem and a criminal record who thinks he can manipulate my daughter because she's vulnerable. But see, she's not vulnerable anymore. She's got her dad, and her dad's very much alive. I look at Amanda. You want him here? She shakes her head. No, I broke up with him Thursday. He won't accept it. You heard her. Leave. Don't come back. Don't call. Don't text. Don't drive by. Nothing. He looks at Amanda. This is BS, Amanda. You know you want. I want you to leave, Amanda says firmly. I was stupid. I was so stupid. But I'm done. He slams his car door and peels out, probably trying to look tough but just sounding like the child he is. Amanda and I stand in the driveway for a moment. I'm proud of you, I finally say. She starts sobbing. Not pretty tears, ugly, snotty crying. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I was horrible. I was so horrible to you. Yeah, I agree. You were. She laughs through her tears. You're supposed to say it's okay. It's not okay. What you said hurt. Bad, but we're gonna work through it. Even the Timothy thing? Especially the Timothy thing. That was messed up, Amanda. I know. God, I know. He tried to give me dating advice at the hotel. About Jason. He said I should give the boy a chance to prove himself. The boy with the criminal record? Right? And Mom just sat there nodding like he was some kind of parenting expert. She doesn't even know Jason's last name. We go inside. I make us both coffee, hers with 1 cream, 1 sugar, just how she likes it. So what happens now, she asks. Now you're grounded for 2 weeks for the party thing. No phone, no going out, no friends over. She nods. Fair. And you're going to write apology letters to Aunt Stephanie for putting her in the middle, to your mom for embarrassing her in front of Timothy, even though she deserved it, and to yourself. To myself? For dating someone who treats you like property. You're worth more than that. She tears up again. What about you? Don't I owe you an apology letter? No. You owe me something better. You owe me the truth, always. Even when you're mad. Even when you hate me. Even when you think I'm ruining your life. The truth. Not wishes for me to be dead. I can do that. Good. Also, you're getting a flip phone until you can pay for half of a smartphone plan. Dad. Dead people don't pay for iPhones, Amanda. I may be alive again, but I'm not stupid. She groans but nods. Yeah, okay, fair. As I write this, she's upstairs doing homework. Melissa has called 6 times. I haven't answered. Stephanie sent me a text that just says, Brother of the Year. I don't know if I handled this right. My own dad would have just beat my ass for talking like that. But I'm not my dad, and Amanda's not me. We're figuring it out as we go. She'll be okay. We'll be okay. And Timothy? According to Melissa's latest voicemail, he's already dating someone new, a 28-year-old yoga instructor with no kids. Perfect. Edit. To everyone saying I'm father of the year, I'm not. I'm just a dad who hit his breaking point and got lucky it worked out. To the people saying I'm abusive, maybe think about what it's like to be the only parent who gives a damn for 8 years just to be told you're worth less than some random dude who doesn't even know your kid's grade level. Amanda, it's brought me a sandwich for lunch. Turkey and Swiss, no pickles, just how I like it. We're gonna be okay. I found a voice recording on my fiancé's phone she'd accidentally left unlocked. Mom, I'm only marrying him for citizenship, then I'm filing for divorce. I sent it to Immigration Services. Her petition was denied and she had to leave the country. My name is Daniel, 29, and I need to get this off my chest because I can't tell anyone in real life. What I did was legal, but I'm not sure if it was right. Met Margaret 3 years ago at a friend's birthday party. She was from Brazil, here on a student visa finishing her MBA. Beautiful, charming, spoke 4 languages. Way out of my league, honestly. But she laughed at my terrible jokes and actually seemed interested when I talked about my boring hobbies. We clicked immediately. Started dating within a month. She met my parents after 6 months. I met hers when they visited from São Paulo. Wealthy family. Her dad owned some tech company. They were polite but distant. Margaret said they were always like that with strangers. Everything felt perfect, too perfect, looking back. She moved in after a year. Started talking about her visa running out after graduation. I offered to help her find a job sponsor, but but she said the market was brutal for international students. Then one night, she was crying about having to leave the country, leave me. I proposed 2 months later. She said yes immediately. Cried happy tears. Called her mom right there in the restaurant. Her parents suddenly became much friendlier, started calling me son. Her dad even offered to pay for the entire wedding. We filed the initial marriage-based petition, the I-130, so she could adjust her status after we were married. It felt like the right, protective thing to do. Wedding planning consumed our lives. Margaret handled everything with her mom. They'd have hours-long calls in Portuguese. I'd catch snippets sometimes, hear my name mentioned. When I asked, she'd say they were discussing seating arrangements or flowers. 3 weeks before the wedding, Margaret left her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while she showered. It buzzed with a WhatsApp notification from her mom. I wasn't snooping, just wanted to plug it in to charge. But the message preview said my name, so I looked. The conversation was in Portuguese. I put it through Google Translate. Mom, remember what we discussed? After you get the green card, wait at least 18 months before filing. It looks less suspicious. I know, Mom. It's harder than I thought. He really loves me. That's not your problem. Your father has everything arranged with Anthony's family. They're expecting the wedding announcement next Christmas. I scrolled up. There were voice messages. My hands were shaking as I played one from 2 days ago. Mom, I'm only marrying him for citizenship. Then I'm filing for divorce. Yes, I remember the plan. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He's sweet, but naive. It'll be fine. I forwarded everything to my email, screenshots, voice recordings, all of it. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it. She came out of the shower, kissed me, asked what I wanted for dinner. I said I wasn't hungry, had a work emergency, drove to a parking lot and sat there for 3 hours, reading and rereading everything. There was more. So much more. How she'd targeted me specifically because I seemed lonely and stable. How her ex-boyfriend Anthony was waiting for her back home, apparently from an even wealthier family her parents wanted to merge businesses with. How she'd been sending him photos from our trips with captions like, "Suffering for our future." The wedding was in 20 days. Deposits paid. Guests flying in. My mom had been crying happy tears for months about finally getting grandchildren. I contacted an immigration lawyer that night. Paid for an emergency consultation. He said marriage fraud was a serious federal crime, that if I went through with the wedding, I'd be on the hook for an affidavit of support for years, and untangling myself from the fraud later would be a nightmare. He confirmed I had the option to withdraw my petition and report the fraud. He told me exactly how to do it. I formally withdrew the I-130 petition I had filed for her and submitted all the evidence to the USCIS fraud tip line. Then I waited. Margaret noticed I was distant, but I blamed work stress. The wedding planning continued. Her dress fittings, cake tastings where she fed me samples and laughed, all while texting Anthony about their real future. About 2 weeks later, a thick envelope from USCIS arrived, addressed to both of us. She opened it at breakfast, went white. Started hyperventilating. It was a notice of intent to deny our petition, citing specific evidence submitted to this office that indicates the beneficiary may be entering the marriage for the primary purpose of evading immigration laws. She looked at me with huge eyes. What do I do? This is a mistake. I shrugged. We should probably talk to a lawyer. We did. Her lawyer was grim. He said the evidence was damning. They could fight it, but it was hopeless. Withdrawing my support and providing direct evidence meant the petition was dead. A week later, the final denial came. The notice also stated that because she was no longer a student and her petition for adjustment of status was denied, her visa was invalid. She was officially out of status. Another letter came a few days after that. This one was from ICE. It gave her 60 days for voluntary departure. Leave on her own terms, or they would initiate formal removal proceedings, which would end with a deportation order and a permanent ban from the U.S. The car ride home from the lawyer's office was silent except for her crying. Back at the apartment, she turned on me. It was you? Not a question. What are you talking about? They had recordings only from my phone. The notice mentioned evidence from the petitioner. It was you. I could have denied it, almost did, but I was tired. Yeah, it was me. She slapped me. Hard. Called me things in Portuguese I didn't need translated. Then she begged. Actually got on her knees. Said she did love me, that it had become real, that we could work through this. Margaret, you literally have a boyfriend waiting for you. I was going to tell him it's over, I swear. I chose you. You chose a green card. She switched tactics, threatened to tell everyone what I did, that I'd ruined her life out of spite. Her family had connections, she said. They'd destroy me. Go ahead. Tell everyone you committed immigration fraud. She was on a plane to São Paulo a month later, a week before the deadline. I know because she sent me a photo from the gate with a message. I hope you're happy. My parents won't even look at me. Anthony's family called off everything. You ruined my life. I didn't respond. Update 1. It's been a few months since Margaret left. The wedding venue kept our deposit, obviously. I'm out about $8,000 total. My family. That was rough. Had to tell them the wedding was off, that we'd broken up. My mom cried. My dad said he knew something was off about her. Some of our mutual friends figured out what happened. Margaret told her version that I'd discovered her plan, and instead of just breaking up, I had cruelly chosen to ruin her life. A few of them didn't believe her, but they didn't side with me either. They said I should have just called it off like a normal person, instead of weaponizing the system. I lost some friends over the method, not the reason. The others said they'd noticed red flags. Easy to say, after the fact. My buddy Mark, who introduced us at his party, finally admitted something. Margaret had asked him specifically about me before that night. Wanted to know if I was single, what I did for work, if I was stable. He thought she was interested. Now he feels guilty. I still have all her stuff in boxes. Can't bring myself to throw it out or send it. Her parents contacted me once through a lawyer, demanding I ship everything to Brazil at my expense. I ignored it. Started therapy last week. Therapist asked if I regret it. Honestly, I don't know. I saved myself from a fake marriage and a legal mess, but I keep thinking about her crying, her panic when those letters came. Was there any part of it that was real? Does it matter? What really messes with me is how good she was at it. 3 years. Every day for 3 years, she smiled at me, kissed me, told me she loved me. We had inside jokes. She knew how I liked my coffee. She held my hand at my grandfather's funeral. How do you fake all that? My therapist says it wasn't all fake. That manipulative people often develop real feelings but compartmentalize them. That she probably did care about me, just not enough to change her plan. I want to believe that. It's somehow worse than thinking it was all a lie. Update 2. Posted this update because you won't believe what happened last week. I was in Toronto for a work conference. On my last day, I was killing time in a coffee shop in the Yorkville area when I heard my name. That voice, my stomach dropped to my shoes. Margaret, standing there with a laptop bag and a coffee. She looked different. Thinner. Her designer clothes replaced with a simple sweater and jeans. But still beautiful, still her. Hi Daniel, she said. Margaret, was all I managed. What are you doing here? I live here now, she said. Got a work visa through a program for people with MBAs. It's not the US, but it's a life. My own. Good for you. I deserved what happened. I deserved all of it. Why are you telling me this, Margaret? I owe you an explanation. A real one. I almost left. Should have left. But I'd wanted answers for a year. We sat down. My family isn't broke, she said, which surprised me. They're wealthy, but they're controlling. The marriage to Anthony wasn't about saving them from debt. It was a dynastic plan, merging his family's old money influence with my father's tech company. I was a business asset. So you used me, I stated. Yes, but not for the reason you think. The American green card, it was my escape plan, my only one. My plan was to marry you, get citizenship, and then disappear. From you, yes, but more importantly, from them. From Anthony. I was terrified of that life. I picked you because you were kind and stable, because I knew you wouldn't see the signs. It was cruel and selfish, and I knew it. Each word was a punch to the gut. But she wasn't done. Then I did something stupid. I fell for you, not part of the plan. My mom was furious when I'd defend you, when I'd say maybe we could make it work for real. She'd remind me about my duty to the family. But you still recorded that message, about only marrying me for citizenship. Her hands tightened on her cup. The day before you found everything, my mom had been on me for hours, said I was getting weak. that I needed to remember my purpose. So I sent that message to shut her up, to prove I was still in control. 20 minutes after I sent it, you came home with flowers. Random Tuesday flowers, just because. I cried myself to sleep that night knowing what I was doing to you. Am I supposed to feel sorry for you? No, God, no. I'm just trying to explain. Not excuse, explain. She told me what happened after. How Anthony's family immediately cut ties when the scandal of a denied US visa petition came out. How her parents blamed her for the failure. How she'd lived with a cousin in São Paulo working a terrible job until she found a lawyer who specialized in Canadian immigration and clawed her way to the life she had now. My life imploded, and I deserved it. But you know what the worst part was? Missing you. Not the visa, not the plan, not the life I thought I'd have. You. Your stupid jokes, the way you hummed in the shower, how you'd bring me tea without me asking. I didn't know what to say. Still don't. You destroying my plan was the best thing that ever happened to me, she said with a bitter laugh. I was going to be a trophy wife, controlled by my parents. Now I'm just a mid-level analyst in Toronto. My apartment is tiny, and I'm happier than I've been in years, because it's real. It's mine. She stood to leave. I found myself asking, was any of it real? She turned back. The first time you made me laugh, really laugh, not the practiced giggle I'd perfected. I knew I was in trouble. The night your grandfather died, I held you while you cried and wished I could absorb your pain. When you proposed, for about 10 seconds I forgot it was all a lie and just felt happy. So yes, it was real. The love was real. It just wasn't enough to overcome the lie. She left. I sat there for another hour. Update 3. Final update. It's been 2 years since I posted the original story. Thought I should give one last update before I close this chapter for good. After that Toronto encounter, Margaret texted me once. Just said, "Thank you for listening. I won't contact you again. I hope you find someone who deserves you." I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. Ran into Mark at a bar last month. He asked, a little sheepishly, if I knew Margaret had landed on her feet in Canada. He'd seen her professional profile online, said she was doing well, got promoted, was dating some architect, normal guy, normal relationship. He saw the look on my face and quickly changed the subject. I'm in therapy twice a month now, working through trust issues, obviously, but also guilt. Because here's the thing, I did the right thing legally, but I still struggle with whether I did the right thing morally. My therapist says both can be true. That protecting yourself doesn't make you a bad person, even if someone else gets hurt. Started dating again 6 months ago. Met someone through a hiking group. Sandra. She's a teacher, born and raised here, 0 immigration complications. She jokes that she's so American, her blood type is apple pie. I told her about Margaret on our 4th date. All of it. Expected her to run. Instead, she said, that must have been incredibly painful, for both of you. We're taking it slow. Very slow. I check myself constantly. Am I being paranoid? Am I punishing Sandra for Margaret's lies? Sometimes I catch myself testing her, looking for inconsistencies. When I realize I'm doing it, I tell her. We talk through it. It's not romantic or exciting. It's work, but it's honest work. My mom still has the wedding dress she bought to wear to my wedding. She can't return it, can't donate it, can't throw it away. It hangs in her closet like a ghost. She doesn't know the real story, thinks we just grew apart. I let her believe that. Some truths don't help anyone. I still have the screenshots on my hard drive, tucked in a folder I never open but can't delete. Evidence of the life I almost had. The life that almost had me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never seen that message. Would we be married now? Would she have gone through with her plan? Would I have spent years loving someone who was counting down to leaving? But mostly, I try not to think about it. Because here's what 3 years of deception taught me. People are complicated. Love is complicated. Margaret was simultaneously the woman who used me and the woman who cried in my arms. The woman who targeted me for an escape route and the woman who brought me soup when I was sick. The villain and the victim of her own story. I reported her because I had to protect myself. She was going to commit fraud using my name, my life, my future. But I also did it because I was hurt, angry, betrayed. Both motivations existed at once, twisted together like DNA strands. She's built a real life now, so have I. Neither of us got the future we planned, but maybe we got the ones we needed. To anyone reading this who's been betrayed, who's discovered their life was built on lies, it's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to choose your own safety over someone else's scheme, even if you loved them. Even if part of you still does. And to anyone considering using someone like this, don't. Just don't. The damage goes deeper than you think. For everyone. I'm closing my inbox after this, moving on. Sandra's coming over tonight. We're making dinner together. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. Real life. Real boring, beautiful, ordinary life. It's enough. More than enough. It's everything.
I drove 200 miles to visit my hospitalized father, only to catch my brother in his room, saying, "Let the old bastard die already, we've got money to divide." I stayed hidden behind the curtain. 2 days later, Dad woke up and handed me a letter. It revealed the decades-long secret he'd been keeping from us all. I, 34M, got the call at 3:17 a.m. Tuesday. Dad had a massive heart attack and was in critical condition. The nurse wouldn't elaborate, but her tone said everything. I packed a duffel, texted my boss that I needed emergency leave, and started the 200-mile drive from my apartment to my hometown, my mind racing the whole way. Dad raised me and my brother Vince, 38M, alone after Mom died from cancer when I was 8. He worked construction during the day and bartended nights, somehow never missing my baseball games or Vince's debate tournaments. The man mortgaged his house twice to put us both through college. Complete selflessness. Which is why what happened next felt like getting hit by a freight train. I arrived at the hospital around 9 a.m., running on energy drinks and anxiety. As I approached Dad's room, I heard voices inside, one unmistakably Vince's, who somehow beat me there despite living 300 miles away in the opposite direction. "Let the old bastard die already. We've got money to divide." Jesus Christ, how long does it take for a heart to just give up? My hand froze above the door handle. I felt physically sick. "The house alone is worth $350,000 in this market," Vince continued, his voice animated like he was discussing a fucking sports bet. "Plus his retirement accounts, that stupid boat he never uses, and the classic car he babies more than he ever did us. Hell, he wiped that car's ass more than he changed our diapers. We're talking close to $1 million. Split it 50-50, and we're both sitting pretty." A woman's voice responded, my brother's wife, Tara. "What about the will? Doesn't he have everything set up already? Last time you checked it was all locked down, right?" "Dad's will splits everything between me and Lucas," Vince said with a snort. "But if we can convince Lucas to sell everything and split the cash, I've got some creative accounting ideas that could shift things in our favor. The idiot still looks up to me like I'm his fucking hero. He'll do whatever I suggest. Always has." Then a third voice I didn't recognize, male, professional sounding. "And you're sure there's nothing else? No other assets or accounts we should know about? Offshore accounts? Safety deposit boxes?" "Nothing that matters," Vince replied dismissively. "Dad was always paranoid about banks. Kept everything in like 3 accounts, max, easy to track. Trust me, I've been watching his finances since I was in college. The old man's predictable as shit." I backed away silently and ducked behind a curtain as they exited. Vince looked annoyed, not grief-stricken. Tara was checking something on her phone. The third person was a sharp-dressed man in his 40s carrying a leather portfolio. None noticed me. After they left, I went in to see Dad. He looked small in a hospital bed, tubes everywhere, machines beeping steadily. The doctor said he was in a medically induced coma to help his heart recover. They weren't sure when or if he'd wake up. For 2 days straight, I stayed by Dad's side. Vince showed up for exactly 45 minutes each day, putting on a show of concern when nurses were around, then immediately returning to property value discussions with Tara once they left. The mystery man, who I learned was Elliot, a financial advisor Vince had apparently hired the day after Dad's heart attack, joined them twice. I pretended not to hear, but recorded everything on my phone, just in case. On the third day, I was dozing in the chair beside Dad's bed around 5 a.m. when I felt something touch my hand. I opened my eyes to see Dad looking at me, weak but conscious. The doctors were shocked. They hadn't planned to bring him out of the coma for at least another day. "Lucas," he whispered, his voice raspy. "My wallet. Front pocket." I found his wallet and opened it. Behind his driver's license was a folded piece of paper. "Read it," he said. When you're alone, tell no one. That night, after Dad had fallen back asleep and the nurses assured me he was stable, I went to my hotel room and opened the letter. Letter starts, "Son, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. There are things you need to know, things I've hidden from everyone for over 30 years. First, the business. Everyone thinks I've just been a construction worker and part-time bartender all these years. That's our cover. Your mother and I were government contractors, specialized recovery of sensitive items from hostile territories. Not officially military, not officially intelligence. Something in between. We took jobs others wouldn't. The money in my main accounts is just my legitimate retirement. The real money, the job money, is in a secure trust. $4.3 million, earned one dangerous job at a time. Your mother and I agreed before she died. It stays hidden until both of you turn 40 or something happens to me. Here's why I'm only telling you. Vince isn't who you think he is. He's not my biological son, and worse, he knows it. He's known since he was 17 and broke into your mother's old files. What he doesn't know is that he's not your mother's son either. Before I met your mother, I was briefly married to a woman named Kira. She died during childbirth. Her son, Vince, survived. When I met your mother 2 years later, we agreed I would raise him as ours. We created a new history, new documents. It was easier back then. Since discovering the partial truth, Vince has been watching me, waiting for me to die. He's tried accessing my accounts 3 times. He hired a private investigator last year to follow me to my safe deposit boxes. There's a flash drive in my work boot in the closet. Inside the left heel, it unscrews. It has everything, account numbers, passcodes, evidence of Vince's attempts to steal from me. The drive is keyed to our family lawyer, Martin Reed. Take it to him immediately. I'm sorry to burden you with this. You've always been the best of us, honest and kind, just like your mother. The real one. Trust no one except Martin. Love always. Dad. Letter ends. I sat on the edge of the bed, my world completely upended. Dad, a secret government contractor? For $0.3 million hidden? And Vince, not even my half-brother, but essentially a stranger who'd been plotting against our father for years? It seemed impossible. Yet it explained so much: the mysterious phone calls Dad would take outside when we were kids, his unexplained absences a few times a year, the strange skills he had that made no sense for a construction worker, fluent in Mandarin, expert marksmanship, knowledge of explosives. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital to find Vince already there with Elliot, talking to Dad's doctor in the hallway. The doctor mentioned remarkable recovery and possibly going home next week with proper care. The flash of disappointment on my brother's face was unmistakable. We'll need to discuss home care options, Vince said smoothly. I've been researching facilities that specialize in cardiac rehabilitation. I think it's best if professionals handle this. I chimed in. Actually, I've already taken extended leave from work. I'll be staying with Dad during his recovery. Vince's eyes narrowed slightly. That's thoughtful, Lucas. But you're not medically trained. Neither are you, I replied with a smile. Dad wants to recover at home. I'm making that happen. Later, when we were alone, Dad confirmed everything in the letter. He'd spent 22 years as a recovery specialist, working alongside my mother until her cancer diagnosis. The heart attack wasn't his first. He'd had a minor one last year, which prompted him to prepare the letter and secure the evidence against Vince. I wanted to tell you for years, he said weakly. But that life, it required absolute secrecy. Your mother and I agreed. Normal lives for our children. What about Vince? I asked. If he's known since he was 17. Dad's face darkened. After he found out, things changed. He became obsessed with what he called his real family. Started demanding money for information about his biological mother. But there's nothing to find. Kira's entire family died in a house fire before I even met her. Dad was discharged a week later. I took indefinite leave from my job to stay with him, using the excuse of his recovery to search for the flash drive. I found it exactly where he described, inside the heel of a worn work boot in his closet. That evening, while Dad was resting, Vince showed up unannounced with Tara and Elliot. He seemed surprised to find me there. Just checking on Dad, he said casually, and dropping off some paperwork he needs to review. What paperwork? I asked, instantly on guard. Elliot stepped forward with a folder. Just some standard power of attorney documents. Given your father's condition, it would be prudent for someone to have legal authority to manage his affairs temporarily. I'm his son, Vince added, chest puffing up. The eldest. It makes sense for me to handle things while he recovers. Someone's got to step up, right? I took the folder without opening it. I'll make sure he sees these when he's feeling stronger. Vince's jaw tightened, a vein pulsing in his temple. Those really should be signed as soon as possible. For his protection. I'll let Dad decide what's best for his protection, I replied, staring him dead in the eyes. For fuck's sake, Lucas, Vince hissed, dropping the concerned son act. He can barely take a piss without help. You think he's in any condition to manage finances? Don't be stupid. After they left, I examined the documents. It wasn't just power of attorney, it was complete financial control, authority to sell property, access to all accounts, and change of beneficiary forms for his insurance policies. Vince would have complete control over everything Dad owned. I showed the papers to Dad, who just shook his head sadly. He's getting desperate, he said. That means he's dangerous. You need to see Martin tomorrow. No more waiting. The next morning, I called Vince and told him I was taking Dad for a follow-up appointment and would be gone most of the day. Instead, I visited Martin Reed, Dad's lawyer, bringing the flash drive and copies of the documents Vince had tried to get signed. Martin was a serious man in his 60s who, upon seeing the flash drive, immediately locked his office door and pulled the blinds. James warned me you might be coming, he said, referring to my father by his first name. Is he lucid? Completely, I confirmed. Heart's weak, but mind's sharp as ever. Martin connected the drive to a special laptop, not linked to any network. What I saw over the next 2 hours changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Video footage of Vince meeting with known criminals to discuss acquiring Dad's assets. Bank records showing Vince had stolen over $200,000 from Dad over the years through fraudulent checks and credit card schemes. A DNA test confirming what Dad had said, Vince was not biologically related to either Dad or Mom. Most disturbing were the surveillance photos taken 6 months ago, Vince in Dad's house while Dad was away, clearly tampering with the gas line on the water heater. Martin explained that Dad had suspected Vince might try to stage an accident, so he'd installed hidden cameras throughout the house. Your father has been building this case for years, Martin explained. Not because he wanted to use it, but as insurance. He always hoped Vince would change. What do we do now? I asked. That depends on James, Martin replied. The evidence here is enough for criminal charges. But knowing your father, he'll want to handle this differently. When I returned home, Dad was sitting in his recliner, looking stronger than he had since the heart attack. I told him everything about my meeting with Martin. Now you understand, he said quietly. I've given Vince every chance, Lucas. Paid for his college, helped with his mortgage, bailed him out of debt repeatedly. I kept hoping the boy I raised would overcome whatever darkness drives him. Dad took a deep breath. It's time for the trust to be revealed. Not the way I planned, but necessary now. Martin will execute a special provision tomorrow. The money transfers to you immediately, not at 40 as planned. We need to secure it before Vince realizes what's happening. What about Vince? I asked. The evidence against him. We'll give him a choice, Dad said firmly. But first, we need to be protected. That night, I could barely sleep, knowing what was coming. The next day would change everything.
Update. It's been 2 months since my original post. Many of you asked for an update. So here it is. The morning after I met with Martin, everything was set in motion. The trust was officially transferred to me as sole beneficiary, with Dad retaining lifetime use rights to a portion for his living expenses. Martin also filed for emergency restraining orders against Vince, based on the evidence of his tampering with the gas line. But Vince was already making his move. I returned from picking up Dad's prescriptions to find Vince's car in the driveway. Inside, I found him and 2 unfamiliar men in suits standing over Dad, who remained calm in his recliner. Perfect timing, Vince said with a cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. Lucas, meet Dr. Hoffman and Dr. Jensen. They're here to evaluate Dad's mental capacity. Apparently, he's been making concerning statements and changes to his financial arrangements. Talking crazy shit about secret government work. The taller doctor stepped forward, All business. We've been retained to determine if your father requires a conservatorship for his protection. Dad looked at me and gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. I understood. Say nothing about what we knew. On whose authority are you here? I asked, feeling my blood pressure spike. Vince smugly produced a document. As Dad's eldest son, I requested an emergency evaluation based on his recent erratic behavior. The court approved it this morning. It's all perfectly legal. I took out my phone and called Martin, putting him on speaker. They're here now. I said simply, try and keep my voice steady. Is James there? Martin asked, yes, with Vince and 2 doctors for a supposed competency evaluation. There was a pause. Tell them to check their emails immediately. The doctors looked confused, but checked their phones. Both men suddenly looked uncomfortable, exchanging glances. Mr. Vincent Carter, the shorter doctor said, clearing his throat, you told us the court had approved this evaluation. Vince's face reddened. They did. I filed the paperwork myself. What the hell's going on? Then perhaps you can explain this email from Judge Martinez denying your petition and warning that proceeding without proper authorization could result in charges of elder abuse and practicing medicine without proper court approval. The room went silent. Vince's face contorted with rage, his mask completely slipping. This is complete fucking bullshit, he spat, slamming his hand against the wall. Dad's clearly lost his goddamn mind, and Lucas is taking advantage. He's after the money, can't you see? He's been manipulating him for months. Gentlemen, Dad interrupted, his voice stronger than I'd heard in weeks. I believe I can clear this up. He reached beside his chair and pressed a button on his phone. Nancy, please come in now. The front door opened, and a woman in a business suit entered, carrying a small digital recorder. This is Nancy Patel from Adult Protective Services. Dad explained. She's been here since 7 a.m. this morning, documenting this entire encounter. We've been expecting something like this. Vince went pale. You set me up. No, son, Dad said sadly. You set yourself up the moment you decided my death was worth more to you than my life. Nancy stepped forward. Mr. Vincent Carter, based on evidence provided to our office and what I've witnessed here today, I'm issuing an immediate protective order. You are not to contact your father or brother or come within 500 feet of this residence. The doctors, clearly uncomfortable, mumbled apologies and left quickly. Vince stood frozen, his entire plan collapsing around him. You can't do this, he whispered, his voice cracking. I'm family. I'm your son. Dad looked at him with an expression of profound sadness. We need to talk, Vince, about Kira, about who you really are. Vince's eyes widened, all color draining from his face. What the fuck did you say? I know you found the documents about being adopted, Dad said, but you only found part of the truth. Sit down. It's time you heard all of it. Nancy and I left them alone for nearly an hour. From the other room, I heard shouting, You're fucking lying, and all these years you've been lying to me. Then crying, then silence. When I returned, Vince was gone, and Dad looked exhausted but relieved. What happened? I asked. Dad rubbed his eyes. I told him everything. About Kira, about the money, about the evidence we have against him. I offered him a choice. Disappear completely from our lives and receive a one-time payment of $250,000, or face criminal charges for the attempted gas line tampering and financial fraud. And Dad sighed heavily. He took the money, of course, but not before telling me he's hated me since he was 17, that I was never his real father. Dad's voice cracked. He said, and I quote, I've spent 20 years wishing you were dead. The only real thing I ever felt for you was disappointment. Christ, Lucas, where'd I go so wrong with him? The next day, Martin handled the transfer to an offshore account Vince specified. The agreement included ironclad NDAs and a confession to crimes signed by Vince, to be filed if he ever violated the terms. We thought that was the end of it. We were wrong. 3 weeks later, I received a thumb drive in the mail with no return address. On it was a single video file, security footage from what appeared to be an upscale hotel room. It showed Vince meeting with Elliot and Tara, planning not just to gain control of Dad's assets, but to have me committed as well. The conversation included details about forged medical records and a psychiatrist who was on their payroll. Most shocking was Tara's cold assessment. If the heart attack doesn't finish him, we have other options. Elliot's brother works pharmacy at the hospital. One adjustment to his medication. Jesus, babe, don't say that shit out loud, Vince had replied, looking around nervously. Tara rolled her eyes. Who's gonna hear? The room's secure. Don't be such a pussy. We've come too far to get squeamish now. Your father's worth more to us dead than alive. Always has been. He's not my fucking father, Vince had snarled. Never was. The video had clearly been edited to show just these conversations. At the end, a text document opened with a simple message. Vince isn't working alone. The $250,000 is being used to set up something bigger. Watch your backs. A friend. We immediately strengthened security, changed Dad's medical providers, and hired private investigators to monitor Vince's activities. We discovered he hadn't left the country as planned, but had rented a house just 50 miles away under a false name. Then came the bombshell that changed everything.
Final update. It's been 4 months since my last update. I've waited to post until I could be sure we were truly safe. What happened after my last post was something none of us could have predicted. 2 weeks after receiving the mysterious thumb drive, I was working in Dad's garden when a woman approached the fence. Mid-40s, professional-looking, with an intensity that put me immediately on alert. "Are you Lucas Carter?" she asked. I nodded cautiously, positioning myself between her and the house. "My name is Rebecca Shaw. I work for the same organization your parents did." She handed me a business card with only a name and phone number. "We need to talk about Vince." I nearly called the police right then, but something about her seemed legitimate. I agreed to meet at a public cafe the next day, bringing Martin with me. Rebecca cut straight to the point. "Vincent Carter is not who you think he is. He's not even who he thinks he is." She pulled out a secure tablet and showed us classified documents. Kira wasn't just your father's first wife. She was his partner on an operation that went badly wrong. The child, the real Vincent, died alongside her in a targeted attack. Your father was devastated, blamed himself. "So who is Vince?" Martin asked. "A plant," Rebecca said grimly. "The biological son of Anton Resnick, the man responsible for the attack that killed Kira. When James identified Resnick years later, Resnick retaliated by placing his own son in James's life, a sleeper agent meant to monitor your father and eventually gain access to information about our organization." It seemed unbelievable, like something from a spy novel. But the documentation was extensive: DNA tests, surveillance reports, communications intercepts. "Does Vince know?" I asked. "That he's working for his actual father?" "We believe he discovered his true parentage approximately 5 years ago," Rebecca confirmed. "The timeline matches when his attempts to access your father's secure information intensified." "Why are you telling us this now?" Martin demanded. "Because Resnick is dead. Killed last month in a power struggle within his organization. Without his protection, Vince is vulnerable and dangerous. We've intercepted communications suggesting he's planning something significant, possibly targeting your father directly to tie up loose ends before disappearing." The next day, Rebecca's team installed advanced security throughout Dad's house while we relocated temporarily to a safe house. The waiting game began. It took 3 weeks. On a Tuesday evening, security cameras caught Vince and 2 armed men attempting to break into Dad's empty house. They were met by a tactical team and arrested without incident. One of Rebecca's agents later showed me the body cam footage, Vince screaming, "Do you know who my father is? Do you know who I am?" as they cuffed him. The charges: conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, illegal weapons possession, and a dozen other federal offenses. The interrogation tapes were brutal to watch. Vince, whose real name was Mikhail Resnick, alternated between cold calculation and explosive rage. "My whole life was a fucking lie," he screamed at one point, overturning a table before being restrained. 38 years living with the enemy. He'd been placed with Dad when he was just 2 years old, with falsified records and a manufactured backstory. The operation was so deeply classified that even most government agencies were unaware of it. "I always knew something was wrong," he said during a calmer moment in the interrogation. "I never felt like them. Never belonged. Now I know why. My real blood is stronger. Resnick blood." Vince had discovered his true parentage 5 years ago through a DNA ancestry service, which had flagged a close match with Anton Resnick's brother in their database. He'd made contact with his biological father and begun working to infiltrate Dad's past life for information that could be valuable to Resnick's organization. My real father welcomed me with open arms, Vince told the interrogators, smiling for the first time. Called me son. Said I'd finally come home. Do you know what that's worth? To finally belong somewhere. The heart attack had accelerated his timeline. He'd seen it as the perfect opportunity to gain control of Dad's assets and access to his secure information before disappearing back to his biological father's protection. What he hadn't known was that Anton Resnick had been under surveillance for years. Every communication between them had been monitored. The mysterious thumb drive I'd received? It had come from Rebecca's organization, testing to see if we could be trusted. Vince now faced a minimum of 30 years in federal prison. Given the national security implications, most of the proceedings were classified. We were told he would serve his time in special facility for high-risk intelligence assets. As for Dad, the revelations brought an unexpected peace. The burden of decades of secrets had finally lifted. His health improved dramatically, and he even began consulting part-time with Rebecca's organization, helping to close old cases. The trust money, all legitimate earnings from their government work, remained secure. Dad insisted I use some of it to restart my life after the months I'd spent protecting him. I bought a small tech company I'd always admired and moved back to the city, though I visit Dad every other weekend. Last month, Dad sold his house and bought a beachfront condo, fulfilling a promise he'd made to Mom before she died. When I helped him move, he handed me a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Your mother wanted you to have this when everything was finally over, he said. Inside was a diamond pendant and a handwritten note. Asterisk, Lucas, if you're reading this, the shadows are finally gone from our lives. Know that everything your father and I did was to keep you safe and give you a normal life. The love we shared as a family was always real, even when the circumstances weren't. Now live your life. No more secrets. No more looking over your shoulder. That's all we ever wanted for you. Love, Mom, asterisk. Dad and I talk almost daily now. Sometimes about the past, but mostly about the future. He started teaching sailing classes at the marina near his condo, making new friends who know nothing about his former life. Just a retired guy with a boat and stories he can never quite fully share. As for me, I've started dating again. Taking risks. Living in the moment. Sometimes I think about Vince or Mikhail and feel a complicated mix of anger, pity, and relief. He spent his whole life as a weapon aimed at my father, never knowing the kind of love Dad showed me every day. Dad summed it up best during our last fishing trip. We were sitting on the dock at sunset, beers in hand, when he said, "You know what I've learned after all this shit, Lucas? Family isn't about blood or destiny. It's about who chooses to love you even when they know all your truths, the good and the ugly. Your mother and I chose you. And despite everything, we tried to choose Vince too. Some choices just don't take. Some people are just wired wrong from the start." He took a long pull of his beer and looked out at the water. I spent decades blaming myself for how he turned out. Thought I didn't love him enough or loved him wrong. Now I realize some people just can't be loved into being better. And that's not on us. I couldn't have said it better myself.